everyone, I'm Allie with the Potomac Bead Company, and today I'm going to do a little simple project tutorial for you working with large hold freshwater pearls. And the large hold freshwater pearls, if you need any of these, we have them on this site. We're going to be using it with kind of that natural versus elegant look, combining some leather or some Chinese knotting cording with the actual pearls. I'm going to show you two different methods, whether or not you just want to do a simple knotting method, or if you want to do a macrame style, we're going to be using some knotted Chinese knotting cord. If you need any of the materials to do this pearl and cording bracelet, on the left-hand side here of the video, we'll do a little drop down for you that has the links to all of the different materials that you can purchase from me online. If you don't have those little links come up, never fear. Underneath the video, there's generally a description box that says what the video is about and gives descriptions about the things that are used in the video. If you hit the little down arrow or the show more button, you'll get links then in there to all of these different materials that you can shop with us online. Or you can make a list and actually take it to your local Potomac Bead Company as well. So for this project and for kind of this design idea, I'm going to be featuring the large hold pearls. These pearls are potato pearls, and they're approximately 8. They run anywhere from 8 millimeters at their smallest to about 12 millimeters. Most of the ones I have here are right about 12 millimeters. And they, as you can see, are drilled really, really well with a large hole. The hole diameter in these large hold pearls is 2 millimeter. So you know that whatever you're working with, you can get at least 2 millimeters through that hole. That's great because generally pearls have a really, really small hole. And if you want to mix them with any of these thicker materials or the leather look, it's really hard to incorporate pearls into the design. These allow you to incorporate them in. In addition to my pearls, I have a large style lobster clasp. This one here is the paisley clasp. I'm going to be using the lobster clasp with the wood grain trigger clasp there. In addition to that, you can use, in this example here, I used 0.5 millimeter leather, or I'm sorry, 1 millimeter leather, and went through with the leather cording 2 strands through each of my pearls, and then simply tied 2 knots, one knot and then the other knot. Really simple, very simple project, done really quickly. I'm going to take it a little step up for you guys, and we're going to be using the knotted cord in order to do a macrame knot or a macrame stitch to the bracelet. These have been really, really popular lately. Again, doing that kind of whole delicate look with the pearls with that more natural look of the leather or the cording. The Chinese knotting cord that I'll be using is the dark brown, and it is 0.8 millimeters if you're looking. And we're going to be using that for the actual stranding of the pearls. You also want to have handy a pair of scissors, some super glue or some super new glue here as I have. I have a thread burner in case you want to burn down the edges of the thread a little bit. And then I'm working on a nice workable surface. If you want to, you can also work on a bead board or a bead macrame board that we have. It doesn't fit well underneath the screen for me, so I'm just going to be working right in front of you guys. To get started, I'm going to basically cut apart my pearl strand and take a bunch of the pearls off, and then also go ahead and cut my knotted cord. And I'll go over exactly how much you're going to cut of that knotting cord. So to start, I've taken my Chinese knotting cord and I've cut 2 pieces. Both pieces are about 48 inches, and I've simply doubled them over. Because the end of the Chinese knotting cord can fray a tiny bit, I'm going to take that super new glue, kind of separate out my cords here, and just do a little dab of glue on each end of my cording. And I'm taking it back about 1/2 inch on the cording, and then I'm going to let it dry. If you have any extra little drips there, like my second strand down, you can take a piece of cloth or a piece of paper and just kind of wipe some of it off. I'm literally, you can see, just wiping it on my needle tube that was sitting here next to me. Obviously, don't stick that needle tube now down on your beading mat, just kind of put it off to the side. I'm I'm going to wait for that to dry, which is going to harden the ends of the knotting cord. The reason I'm doing this is because that way, when I'm going through and putting my pearls on, I basically have a needle-like end or a stiff end to get the pearls through to make it easier to put them on. I will be putting all 4 strands through each one of my pearls. So even though on the Chinese knotting cord, it says that it is 0.8 millimeters and the whole size of the pearl is 2 millimeters, the Chinese knotting cord has a lot of kind of flexibility to it and a lot of spring and give. Also, another material you could be using is the waxed linen cording. It's the same way. So I should easily be able to fit the 4 cords of the 0.8 millimeter through the pearl, even though it only has a 2 millimeter hole. Once these cording ends dry a little bit more, we'll go ahead and get started on adding our clasp and going over our different knotting technique. So to begin, again, I have those cordings separated into 2 pieces that are just kind of tied or flopped over itself here. I'm going to go back to the start of that, separate out the 2 pieces of cording so that I have 2 separate cords. Going to the end of the cord then, I'm going to take 2 pieces through my lobster clasp. If you're doing a button clasp, you can put it through the holes of the button if you're able to get it through there and tie it on. I'm just going to put those right through there and pull them so I make sure that I'm in the middle and kind of equal distance apart. So you have 2 strands going through the end of the clasp. What I'm going to do right away then is tie a knot. So I don't want you to overthink it. You're literally just tying an overhand knot, which is going to hold the cords in place, making sure that they stay in the middle. So I'm just going to tie an overhand knot with all 4 cords now, which are actually the 2 cords just doubled over. And you can see the knot right next to the piece. The next thing I'm going to do is start by actually putting on a pearl. So I like the start kind of a pearl, so that way the pearl sits close to the end. I'm going to take those 4 strands of my knotting cord, gather them together, and feed them through the pearl. If it is a tight fit, you can just simply spin your pearl around in a circle, and that helps to feed the cording through. You may see some residue come through. That's just going to be the inside of the pearl a tiny bit from where they drilled the pearl. So I have my first pearl on here and the first bead ready to go. What I'm going to do now is a macrame knot. If you don't want a macrame knot and you want to do very simple, you can continue with that overhand knot, just taking those 4 strands through, holding next to the bead, and pulling that knot in. That will get you the same size knot throughout the project. On the example piece here with the 1 millimeter leather cording, what I did was 2 knots. So I did 1 and then another one. To step it up a little bit, I'm going to do that macrame or that kind of Chinese knotting cord method. For that, I have 4 strands. 1 strand is going to go to the right hand side and just kind of hang out. 1 side is going to go to the left hand side and hang out. The last 2 strands are going to stay right in the middle of my project. With the strand on the right hand side, I'm going to make what I call a number 4, or a loop that sticks off to the side and goes above the 2 middle strands. With the cord on the left hand side, I'm going to take it over top of that right hand cord, crossing over kind of in a flag style, hold that crossover point, and bring that left hand thread underneath and through the loop that you created on the right hand side. This is going to create your first little knot. Push it up next to the pearl. I'm going to do the same thing again for you. On the left hand side, I'm going to make my loop off to the side, go over top of the 2 middle strands, bring my thread or my knotting cord from the right hand side and go over top of that cord that I've taken over from the left to the right. Pick up the 2 middle strands and push the cording from the right now through the loop that you created. And do that knot. Again, switching sides. You're going to constantly switch sides for this macrame knot. Going to make the loop on the right hand side over the top of the 2 middle strands. With the cording on the left, take it over the right side cording, underneath the 2 base strands, and through the middle loop that you just created. Pull nice and tight. As you create this stitch here, or this knotting technique here, you want to make sure that it remains flat. If you have 2 stitches in a row on the same side, you're going to start a spiraling effect. The way to know which side you have to start on is that there's going to be a little bump on the side where you just finished. Let me focus here on that for you guys. So on the left-hand side, I know it's dark, but on the left-hand side here, there's a little bump. I know, and the cording on the right is kind of coming out towards the top. The cording that's coming underneath that bump or to the bottom of the project, that's the cording side that I need to make my loop on. You can see when I do it, I hold it up actually close to the project, cross that thread on the left-hand side over, take the right over the top and underneath the middle and out. When I pull this then, you'll see the bump shifts from the right side or the left side to the right side. And then I pull nice and tight. Now it's time for me to switch back from the left to the right. If you forget where you are, you can look at that bump and come back to the opposite side. I have my knot then, and I'm going to do another pull to get that centered. As you're working with it, you want to make sure to give some nice tight pulls so that way your pearl is stable and in place. However many knots you do in the middle, if you want to keep it consistent, you can count that, or you can just look at the different little bumps on each side. The zigzag pattern, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 knots so far. If I want to do 6, I'll keep it even. I'll do my 6th knot here. Left-hand side, cording goes over. The right-hand cording goes over the cord that came from the left, and then tucks underneath the 2 strands and out through that little loop that I made in the middle. Pull it nice and tight for my 6th one. And now I'm going to put on my next pearl. You can do this section here of the knotting as long or as short as you want. That's kind of up to you. I'm just going to gather all my strands here. And you'll start to notice that the strands that are in the middle remain longer than the strands that are on the side. The reason I cut the cording lengths to the same length, to those 48 inches, 24 on each side, is because as you work with the project and as you have the strands go through the pearls, some of those cording orders will get challenged a little bit, and you may not keep the same pieces in the middle. If you can keep track of it and keep those same pieces in the middle, great, but you really won't notice because they're going to twist in the pearl anyway. Once you have your next pearl on, it's time to do that same knotting. Take 1 strand over to the right, 1 strand over to the left, and I try to take whatever's kind of falling naturally and the position that it's naturally falling in. Again, I'll start with the right-hand side, making my little loop there to the right. The left goes over top of the side through that middle loop underneath the 2 middle strands. The second portion then, as I pull, I want to pull nice and tight to push that pearl up against the section that I've already completed. On the left-hand side then, make my little loop, take that thread to the left side over to the top of the 2 middle strands. The thread that's on the right now will come over the top of that right-hand strand, underneath the 2 middle strands, and through the loop that I created. I'm going to pull nice and tight. And again, just switching back and forth. That was my second knot, and I have 4 more to go. I'm going to continue on then with the design, doing 6 knots in between each one of my pearls. So I've done my macrame knot here in between each of my pearls, and I ended up with 7 pearls on my actual bracelet, which makes it good for my length of my wrist, which is about 6.5 inches. And you can kind of stretch it out a tiny little bit before you actually go in and make the loop for the lobster to fit inside. If you want to, you can also just tie the thread off and connect it to a metal loop if you want a metal loop on the other side. I like the look of the big lobster and then it connecting right to my cording. So for this one here, I have my strands kind of coming out right at the end. What I'm going to do is take 2 of my strands, because 4 is rather big for the actual clasp portion. So I'm going to downgrade it to 2. If you want, you can actually do the Chinese knot as your actual loop to make it a little fancier, and you can loop on to that actual macrame knot. I'm going to go easier. Take 2 of the strands off to the sides, to the right and the left. With the 2 left in the middle, you're going to double them over for the loop size that you want for your clasp. Hold those against the pearl. Take the previous 2 strands and tie them together. So these are the 2 strands that were on the side. I'm going to tie them together, which is going to hold that loop. You can then take a pair of scissors, a pencil, whatever you want, and kind of get those 2 loops here to the exact size that you want by pulling them from that centered portion there. Take those 2 pieces again that you just knotted around that loop section and take them and knot them with the other 2 that you made the loop. Making sure to either keep your pencil in there or to keep something in there so it doesn't close completely like mine just did. And pull it nice and tight. I'm then going to go in with my super new glue. Do a tiny little dab of glue right over the knot that I just created. Once the glue dries then, I will take my scissors and cut those extra threads off nice and close. And some people will like to take then their thread burner or their thread zap and actually burn down the ends a little bit. What that's going to do, because the Chinese knotting cord is a little bit conditioned and the material that it is, it almost melts the ends so that it prevents it from fraying. You can see it kind of gets a waxy little coating on it. If you do have 2 thread burners, one that you use for bead weaving and one that you use for working with cording, obviously picking up your one that you work with cording for is ideal for this situation. You can see I was left with a fair amount of cording left, and I cut that extra cording in case you do want to do the macrame loop. If you do want to do the macrame loop, again, you're just going to do that same kind of off to the sides. I call them my Snoopy nose in my other videos, and create that middle section here, double it over and tie it off as well. So you'll have an extra amount of cording to do that if you like. Also, my wrist tends to be on the small side, so I don't usually have, I give you the cord measurements for a longer one. I really love this kind of chic look of the pearls with the cording, so I'm keeping this bracelet for myself. There I have the actual bracelet then completely completed. If you want to, you can even grab, to make it even more boho, kind of a tassel, put that on the end. You could have tied that in if you want to wear the tassel for the day, but you're not sure that you want it all the time. You can also just take a tassel like this one here, put it over the loop, and push it down kind of over the knot. And then your tassel is removable. You can take it on and off as you please. So that's another kind of example for you, is that you can make the tassels removable, taking them on and off when you do it in this manner, in this fashion. Again, if you need any of the materials to do these fun leather and cording pearl bracelets, you can go back to the beginning of the video to the little drop down on the side, or again, if you don't have the drop down on the side, if you're mobile or sometimes your computer blocks it, depending on whether or not you're on an iPad or an actual standard computer. Underneath the video, there's a little description, that show more button. You can click that and that'll give you links then to all the different materials, the large hold pearls, the clasps, as well as the knotting cord. If you want to stay connected with us regularly, see other videos that we do and other examples, some recent things that we've had come in, some newer ideas, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel and get regular updates from me when I do have the opportunity to do new videos for you guys. You can also stay connected with us a number of different ways through our YouTube page, obviously, but also at potomacbeads.com and shop with me online there. You can also visit your local Potomac Bead Company if you're lucky enough to have one near you, as well as stay connected with us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. You can also join our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making, and it's a wonderful forum, an interactive forum for all different types of jewelry, whether or not you're looking for things like this with the knotting techniques or bead weaving or wire working. Really great interactive group there online to help you with your design needs and questions, and really give you advice, tips, and show you what other people are doing and what's hot right now in the beading industry. As always, everybody, thank you so much for watching this kind of chic pearl and cording bracelet.